My mother-in-law secretly spiked my drink at my wedding, causing me to faint and ruining the reception. Now she's offering $5,000 for my forgiveness after my husband made his decision. Hey everyone, I'm Rachel, 27F, and I just got married to my amazing husband Jaden, 32M, a week ago. Our wedding felt like something straight out of a fairy tale. It's crazy to think it all began 2 years ago at our local coffee shop. I was there, as usual, getting my morning caffeine fix to kickstart my day when I noticed this tall guy with kind eyes standing right behind me in line. He seemed nice, but honestly, my mind was more on getting my latte than anything else. Fast forward a few days, and I bumped into him again at the same spot. This time, we ended up talking while waiting for our coffees. We chatted about all kinds of stuff, our favorite books, funny childhood stories, and how much we both loved that cozy coffee shop. We laughed a lot, and for the first time that day, I felt really awake. Looking back, I realize I might have been a little quick to judge at first. Maybe it was because I was so wrapped up in my routine, or maybe because Jaden wasn't the type of guy I usually went for. But that day, something changed. His genuine kindness and warm smile were impossible to ignore. We exchanged numbers, and that very night, Jaden texted me to ask if I wanted to grab dinner sometime. We ended up going to this charming little Italian place tucked away on a side street. The food was incredible, but the conversation was even better. We talked for hours, and it felt so natural. We discovered we had a lot in common: a love for old movies, a secret passion for karaoke, even though neither of us is any good, and, of course, tacos. In the weeks that followed, we spent more and more time together. We went on hikes, explored museums, and even tried, and hilariously failed, to take a pottery class together. The more time I spent with Jaden, the more I realized how special he was. He was funny, intelligent, supportive, and always knew how to make me smile. He challenged me to be a better person and made me feel like I could completely be myself around him. Then, on our second anniversary, Jaden surprised me with the most incredible proposal. We were on a weekend getaway to a charming cabin in the mountains. It was snowing softly outside, and we were cuddled up by the fireplace when Jaden got down on one knee and pulled out a ring. I don't even remember his exact words because all I could see was the love in his eyes. Of course, I said yes. From the moment we got back from our cabin trip, I dove into wedding planning with so much excitement. But then things took an unexpected turn. After we got engaged, I met Jaden's mom, Maria, who's 57, for the first time. She lived a bit out of town, so we hadn't had a chance to meet before. Initially, Maria was incredibly sweet. She talked about how excited she was to finally have a daughter-in-law and how she'd always wanted more children. So having me join the family was a big deal for her. She even hugged me warmly and said she couldn't wait to get to know me better. But things quickly changed when she came to stay with us that weekend to help with some wedding planning. At first I was thrilled, thinking we'd bond and become close. However, her attitude began to shift, making me uncomfortable. The first passive-aggressive comment came during breakfast on Saturday morning. I had made a batch of my favorite pancakes, and while Jaden was having coffee in the backyard, Maria smiled and said, "Oh, I guess you don't worry too much about carbs, huh?" I laughed it off, but it stung a bit. Later that day, we were looking through wedding dress magazines, and she pointed at a model saying, "This dress is so beautiful, but it's designed for someone with a very specific figure. Not everyone can pull it off," glancing at me as she said it. I just nodded and tried to brush it off, but it made me feel self-conscious. The comments kept coming. When we were shopping for decorations, she mentioned casually, "You know, my friend's daughter lost 20 pounds for her wedding. She looks so stunning. Have you thought about doing something like that?" I was shocked and didn't know how to respond. I mumbled something about being happy with my body as it is, but it made me feel judged. The next morning, she was rummaging through my kitchen cupboards and said, "Oh, you have a lot of snacks here. I'd try to keep my house a bit healthier. You don't want to gain weight before the wedding, do you?" It was hard to believe she was still harping on about my weight, and it was starting to really hurt my feelings. The odd part was that Maria never made these comments in front of Jaden. She was all smiles and sweet words when he was around, but the moment he was out of earshot, she'd switch to making these passive-aggressive remarks. It felt like I was living in two different worlds, one where I was loved and accepted, and another where I was constantly judged and criticized. At first, I didn't want to bring this up with Jaden. It's his mom, and I didn't want to create any tension, especially since we had just gotten engaged and were in such a happy place. I kept telling myself it was a small inconvenience and that I could handle it. Plus, I'm not exactly thin and I have curves that I love. I've worked really hard to feel confident in my body. Maria's comments were more annoying than anything else, and I felt like she was trying to poke holes in my confidence. But I wasn't going to let her get to me. However, Maria started visiting us more frequently, almost every weekend, which was beginning to drive me a bit crazy. Working Monday to Friday, I only had weekends to plan my wedding and relax. Every time I turned around at my wedding, Maria seemed to be there, either offering help or just hanging around. It was tough to focus on wedding stuff with her constantly making little comments and acting like she knew better than I did. One weekend, she called to say she was coming over again. I felt a knot in my stomach because I really needed some time alone to plan without her input. So I told her I'd be busy and wouldn't be home. She asked what I was up to, and before I could think, I blurted out that I was going to look at wedding dresses. I guess I wanted her to know I had important things to do. To my surprise, she got really excited and said she'd love to come along. I didn't know how to say no without sounding rude, so I reluctantly agreed. Next thing I knew, Maria was at my door with a big smile, talking about how thrilled she was to help me find the perfect dress. I tried to smile back, but inside I was dreading the shopping trip. We went to a few bridal shops, and from the moment we walked in, Maria was in full mom mode, suggesting dresses I didn't like and making comments about which styles wouldn't suit my body shape. It was exhausting. I felt like I couldn't breathe without her judging me. When I tried on a dress I really liked, she said, "It's nice, but don't you think it's a bit tight around the waist? Maybe something more flowy would look better on you." I was so disappointed because I loved that dress, but her words made me second-guess myself. By the end of the day, I hadn't found a dress and I was feeling pretty down. Maria went home, and I finally had some peace. For the next few days, she kept hounding me about when I would go dress shopping again through texts. I just kept telling her I didn't know yet when he'd have the time. I knew I wasn't going to tell her when I planned to go shopping again. But my plans failed when Jaden told his mom that I was going the next day. She called and asked what time she should come to my place. Now I had a decision to make. Maria had already made so many comments about my body that I dreaded the idea of her coming along. I knew she would spoil the day with more comments and judgments, so I decided to come up with an excuse. I told her the bridal shop had a rule where I could only bring 2 people and that my mom and maid of honor were already on their way. I know it was a stupid lie, but at that moment, I couldn't think of anything else. Maria immediately pointed out how ridiculous my excuse was, saying, "What kind of bridal shop only allows 2 people? That's just silly." Scrambling for words, I said, "I know it's weird, but that's what they told me." I was sweating bullets because I knew how transparent my lie was. I quickly told her I had to leave and cut the call before she could ask any more questions. As soon as I hung up, I felt a huge wave of guilt. I hated lying, especially to Jaden's mom, but I just couldn't handle another day of her making me feel bad about myself. I decided to focus on the positive and remind myself that today was supposed to be fun and exciting. My mom and maid of honor picked me up, and we headed to the bridal shop. I tried to shake off the lingering guilt and just enjoy the experience. I found a dress that I absolutely loved. After that, Maria didn't call, text, or visit our house. She still talked to Jaden, which was a bit of a relief because it meant there wasn't any awkwardness between them. I sent her a picture of me in the wedding dress, hoping to share some of my excitement with her. She just reacted with a thumbs-up emoji and didn't send anything else. I wasn't sure how to take that, but I decided not to dwell on it. With the wedding coming up, I didn't have time to worry about her. As the wedding day got closer, I got busier with all the preparations and didn't text Maria again. There was a lot to coordinate, finalizing the guest list, confirming the caterers, and making sure all the decorations were perfect. Finally, the big day arrived. It was everything I imagined and more. The ceremony was beautiful, and I couldn't stop smiling as I walked down the aisle toward Jaden. The look on his face when he saw me in my dress was priceless and made all the stress of planning worth it. We said our vows, exchanged rings, and just like that, we were married. The reception started off wonderfully. We had a gorgeous venue, perfect weather, delicious food, and everyone seemed to be having a great time. I loved our first dance. We had taken a few dance lessons and managed not to step on each other's toes. It felt like a fairy tale, and I was on cloud 9. Everything was going smoothly until I decided to get a drink. I walked over to the bar to grab something refreshing and saw Maria standing there. She turned to me with a big smile and said, "You look like you're having a wonderful time. Let me get you a drink. Just relax and enjoy yourself." I was a bit surprised by her sudden enthusiasm, but thought maybe she was trying to make up for all the awkwardness. She handed me a Shirley Temple, and I thanked her and took a sip. A few minutes later, I started feeling drowsy, but thought it was just because I was tired. Then I fainted on the floor and lost consciousness. Everything went black, and the next thing I knew, Jaden was panicking and calling for an ambulance. I could hear the worry in his voice as he tried to keep me awake. People were gathering around, but it was all a blur. When the EMTs arrived, they quickly brought me back to consciousness and started asking questions about what I had eaten and drunk that day. I told them everything, including the meal I had at the reception and the Shirley Temple that Maria had given me. Oh man, where do I even start? So things got really weird when the EMTs were asking if anything was unusual or if I'd taken any meds. That's when Maria, looking super guilty, stepped up and confessed that the drink she gave me had alcohol in it. She said she didn't think it was a big deal and thought it would help me relax. I was completely floored. Like, why would she sneak alcohol into my drink without telling me? And then, to make things even messier, my maid of honor, Emily, chimed in and told the EMTs that I had taken some anxiety meds just minutes before walking down the aisle. I was so nervous about everything going smoothly that I took a small dose to calm down. Turns out, the mix of alcohol and the meds is what caused me to pass out. The EMTs explained that mixing certain meds with alcohol can be super dangerous, and I was actually pretty lucky it wasn't worse. After the EMTs left, Jaden was absolutely fuming. He turned to Maria and told her to leave, his voice shaking with anger. Maria looked completely stunned and tried to explain that she didn't mean any harm and it was just a misunderstanding. But Jaden wasn't having it. He yelled at her to leave the reception immediately. I had never seen him so upset, and it broke my heart to see him so angry with his mom on what was supposed to be our happy day. With all the chaos, I felt terrible, and the whole vibe of the reception just tanked. Guests were super uncomfortable, and the joyful atmosphere we had worked so hard to create just vanished. People began leaving one by one, and before we knew it, the reception shut down early. It was heartbreaking to see everyone leave so soon, and it felt like the day I had dreamed of for so long had been ruined. Jaden and I went back to our hotel room, trying to process everything that had happened. I felt numb and exhausted, and sadness hit me like a wave. This was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life, but it had turned into a total disaster because of a stupid prank. I couldn't believe Mariah's thoughtlessness had ruined our special day. Maria kept texting and calling both me and Jaden, but neither of us responded. We just needed some time to process everything and figure out what to do next. I could see. Jaden was really torn up about it. He loved his mom, but was also incredibly hurt and angry by what she had done. It was a tough situation, and I didn't know how to fix it. When we finally went back home, I tried to put the whole incident behind me and focus on our new life together, but it was hard. Every time I thought about our wedding day, I felt a pang of sadness. I kept replaying the events in my head, wondering how things could have been different if Maria hadn't pulled that prank. It felt like a dark cloud hanging over what should have been a beautiful memory. Thankfully, we soon left for our honeymoon, and it was such a relief to get away from all the drama and stress. Jaden and I had an amazing time exploring new places and creating beautiful memories together. It was the perfect escape, and for those 2 weeks, it felt like everything was back to normal. We laughed, relaxed, and enjoyed each other's company without a care in the world. But as soon as we came back to reality, it hit us hard. The moment we pulled into our driveway, there was Maria waiting for us. My heart sank, and I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I knew this confrontation was coming, but I wasn't ready for it to happen the moment we got back. The worst part was that she didn't apologize. Instead, she kept saying it wasn't her fault and that she only meant it as a prank. She stood there trying to justify her actions, saying things like, "I didn't think it would hurt you, and I just wanted to lighten the mood." It was infuriating to see her refuse to take responsibility for what she did. Jaden lost it. He told her that she had crossed a line and needed to own up to it, and the only way he would ever talk to her again was if she apologized to me. He told her that she had hurt me deeply and that it was not okay. Maria tried to interrupt, but he wasn't having it. He told her that from now on, the only time they would be meeting was during holidays, no more random weekend drop-ins, no unnecessary calls. It would be like they were distant relatives who only meet on special occasions. Maria was shocked and started to cry, but Jaden stood firm. I could see how much it hurt him to have to put his foot down with his own mother, but he was determined to stand by me and make sure that I felt safe and respected. Yesterday, while I was at the office, I got a call from Maria, which really surprised me because we hadn't spoken in a while, and I wasn't expecting her to reach out, especially not during work hours. She told me she was outside my office and wanted to meet. I was taken aback and definitely didn't want her coming inside and causing any unnecessary drama, so I decided to go meet her outside to avoid any scenes. We sat down in a little cafe across the street, and I could see that she looked really upset. As soon as we started talking, she broke down crying. It was so awkward because people around us started staring. She told me that she couldn't believe what Jaden was doing. He wasn't picking up her calls or responding to her messages. She was really distraught and begged me to talk to him on her behalf, saying she just wanted things to go back to how they were before. I want to remind you guys that up to this point, Maria still had not apologized to me for what happened at the wedding. It was like she was in complete denial about the impact of her actions. I told her that instead of coming to my office and making a scene, she should be thinking about how her actions had affected me and Jaden. I explained that she had ruined my wedding day, and it wasn't fair to expect me to just brush that aside and talk to Jaden for her. She tried to defend herself, saying she didn't mean any harm and that she was sorry I had a reaction like that. But so, it felt like she was totally stuck in her own head and couldn't see that her actions actually had real consequences. She kept saying, over and over that if she had known what would happen, she would have never done anything like that. All the while, she just kept crying, and people in the cafe started giving us these concerned looks. Honestly, I was super uncomfortable and just wanted to get out of there. I told her I'd see what I could do, but I didn't make any promises. I still haven't spoken to Jaden because I'm not even sure I'm ready to forgive Maria yet. I mean, she didn't even apologize until I pretty much had to force her. My mom keeps telling me to let it go and forgive my mother-in-law, but I really don't know. What do you guys think? I'd really appreciate some suggestions. Update 1. Hey everyone, thank you so much for your comments and advice. It means a lot to have a place to share my story and get support. I was really worn out from Maria's constant texts and calls, and it was starting to get to me. So I decided it was time to have another talk with Jaden to figure out a way to move forward. I told Jaden that Maria had come to my office and apologized, though honestly, it wasn't quite the apology I needed. Still, I thought it was time to try and mend things, even if just a bit. I told him I had forgiven her, which was mostly true because I wanted to put this whole ordeal behind us and focus on our future. Jaden looked pretty concerned and asked if I was really sure. I told him yes, but we needed to set some firm boundaries with his mom to avoid any more drama. He seemed relieved that I was willing to forgive her, but he knew this was about us as a couple needing peace and stability. After our talk, Jaden texted Maria, saying he was glad she had apologized and that we were ready to try to move forward. But he also made it clear, no more dropping by unannounced, no more constant calls, and no more overstepping boundaries. He told her we needed space to focus on our own lives. Maria Repi lied almost right away, saying she was really sorry for everything and just wanted to be part of our lives. She promised to respect our boundaries and give us the space we needed. I still have mixed feelings about it. On one hand, I'm glad Maria seems to be taking our boundaries seriously, but on the other hand, I feel a bit uneasy, because one slip-up could bring all the drama back. I'm trying to stay positive and remind myself that we're making progress, even if it's slow. Also, a lot of you have asked about my anxiety issues. I don't feel comfortable diving into too much detail, but I appreciate your concern. My anxiety wasn't because of Jaden or our relationship. I knew he was the one for me from the moment we got serious. It was more about the wedding day itself and all the stress that comes with planning such a big event. We had over 200 guests, and I wanted everything to be perfect. I was worried something would go wrong: bad food, boring music, decorations not turning out right. I wanted our guests to have an amazing time and remember our wedding as a beautiful, joyous celebration. Update 2. Hey guys, so something unexpected happened, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. Everything was going pretty smoothly until last weekend when Jaden got a call from Maria inviting us both to dinner at her place. She said it was important for us to have this dinner to start getting things back to normal. Jaden asked me what I wanted to do, and I said we should go. Maybe it was her way of trying to make amends. When we got to Mariah's house, she welcomed us with a warm smile. But after dinner, she totally caught me off guard. She got up, came back with a check for $5,000, and handed it to me. She said she was really sorry for ruining my wedding day and wanted to make up for it. I was completely taken aback and felt super uncomfortable right away. I refused the money and told her we didn't need it and that we should just let bygones be bygones. Jaden agreed and told her the same, but Maria was insistent. She ended up putting the check in my coat pocket, and it was all just so awkward and desperate. On our way back home, Jaden and I talked about it. We both felt really confused. Why would Maria give us such a large amount of money? It felt weird and made me wonder about her intentions. Was she truly sorry or just trying to buy our forgiveness? We're not sure what to do. We want to handle this in a way that's fair and respectful. We don't want to hurt Mariah's feelings or reject her efforts to make amends. But we also don't want to feel like we're being bought off. If anyone has any suggestions or has been through something similar, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Update 3. Well, it's been 2 weeks since my last update, and honestly, not much has changed. We still have the check Maria gave us, but we haven't cashed it. It's just sitting in our drawer, almost like a reminder of everything that's happened. I'm not really sure what we'll end up doing with it, but for now, it's just there. Things with Maria are still. So, things are pretty steady at the moment. We're all kind of in this holding pattern, just trying to be civil and respectful without digging too much into the past. Maria's been really good about respecting our boundaries, which is a huge relief. She doesn't drop by uninvited anymore, and she's stopped bombarding us with texts and calls. It honestly feels like she's making a genuine effort to improve, which gives me some hope for the future. Jaden and Maria are still talking on the phone pretty regularly, and their conversations seem positive, which I'm really glad about. It's good to see that their relationship hasn't taken too much of a hit from everything that went down. I chat with Maria occasionally, too. Our conversations are polite and a bit formal, but there's definitely an effort on both sides to keep things friendly. So, I think this will be my last update for a while. I don't expect much to change any me soon, and I'm really hoping things will keep getting better, little by little. I want to focus on the positives and keep moving forward, and I think that's the best thing I can do right now. If anything major happens, I might hop back on here with an update. But for now, I'm going to take a step back and focus on living my life. Thanks again for everything, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.